Hey there. Today's discussion is going to be a relatively short and sweet one. I'll discuss some of the things that you can do with regards to diet in efforts to help alleviate your symptoms of anxiety or depression. Hey there, and thanks for joining me on this beautiful spring morning. Anyway, I just wanted to continue our discussion about anxiety and some of the things that you can do. Previously, I've mentioned certain things like writing and exercise and meditation. Among a few of the things that I've mentioned was elimination in terms of devices and turning off your cell phone notifications and all that. Another element of the elimination part comes down to diet and what you put into your body. And that's really what I'd like to talk about today. And specifically, if we go back to elimination, the idea of eliminating stimulus that puts you over your emotional threshold, one thing that a lot of people just don't really seem to talk about is actually diet and the foods and substances that we bring into our system. And from a very young age, for me personally, I remember being programmed to eat some pretty crazy things like wieners and Jell-O and drinking Kool-Aid and stuff like that. And so from a very young age, we kind of get trained to eat these things, and they can become acceptable habits to consume products that really aren't natural and probably not all that good for us. Oftentimes, a lot of the things that we eat have artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, and really not any of those substances are really designed. Our bodies aren't designed to process those substances. Sure, we can eat them, but should we? That's another question. So on another level, another thing to think about is availability of food and certain substances. And pretty much at any time of the day, day or night, you can readily go and get a coffee or you can buy alcohol. And these two substances, which are consumed in massive quantities and readily available, caffeine in largely in coffee, and then alcohol in beer and wine and liquor. These two things, if you are experiencing any form of anxiety or depression, caffeine and alcohol are perhaps two of the worst substances that you can put into your body. Caffeine is a very strong stimulant. And if you are already in an anxious state, that means your nervous system is at the edge of its threshold or, being pushed already. And caffeine will actually help put you further off balance. And likewise, alcohol, it's a depressant and it really kind of brings you down. So if you're actually, if you are depressed, it can keep you locked in that cycle. It can bring you further down. And so these two substances are really things that you should try to eliminate early on if you're trying to overcome your anxiety. And beyond that, in a general sense, in terms of what you bring into your body, going back to the idea of elimination, one common thing, if you have any sort of illness that's chronic with regards to digestive systems, oftentimes naturopaths will put you on an elimination diet. And the idea being is that you basically remove and simplify your diet as much as possible and then start bringing things back in to see what it is that sets you off. But what I would like to suggest, if you are experiencing anxiety, a great thing you can do, you don't need to do a straight elimination diet, but start removing things that are not whole foods. So any form of processed food, basically anything that comes in a packaged goods for the most part, although there's a lot of things, almost everything, almost all food products now are packaged. But what I'm trying to say is that try to eat as many things that grow, that are plant-based, that you can buy. Oftentimes I'm talking about fruits and vegetables. Things that grow that are seasonally available, locally sourced as much as possible, because by kind of like leaning towards more of a diet that's based on fresh items and local items, you're getting more of the vital energy from the plants because they're still fresh. They're as fresh as they are. They're alive. There's more energy in them. And it's also gentler on the system. Fruit in particular is a really, really great thing to eat because it doesn't tax the digestive system, and there's a lot of energy value in it. So yeah, in general, what I would recommend in terms of diet if you are really, really focused on eliminating and overcoming anxiety, is one definitely thing you could do is just start going with whole foods, going to grains, moving away from processed or white flours, all-purpose flours, going back to whole grain flours, ideally older varieties of wheat and non-wheat grains. If you're going to eat rice, then an ideal one would be brown rice that has all of the germ. It's the whole grain. White rice actually is processed. A lot of the germ and a lot of the seed nutrients are actually removed in the process. If you don't like brown rice, the better option actually is, believe it or not, parboiled rice through vacuum steaming. The actual endosperm, a lot of the nutrients are actually pushed into the grain itself. And so I didn't know this until just recently, that parboiled rice is actually more nutritious than white rice. So yeah, so in any of those cases, what I'm going back to is basically eating foods that are as close to their natural state as possible, and which means they haven't been modified, they haven't had things removed. They have not been processed to make them last longer. Generally speaking, the more shelf-stable a food is, the less good it is, the less appropriate it is for your digestive system, because we evolved on this earth with all of these plants in animals and natural food products that we ate historically through our evolutionary development. And we did not eat a lot of processed foods. And again, so the foods that are good for us were actually designed in nature to work in our system. So if you'd like to bear with me here for a moment, I'd like to take you on a bit of a visual journey. So if you could close your eyes and try to visualize your ancestors from a little over 1,000 years ago. That's no more than, say, about 40 generations, which isn't that many. But those people, chances are they were hunter-gatherers, and they probably grew a bit of their own food, but largely moved around the landscape, collecting plants, fruits, and vegetables, what they could in the moment to sustain themselves. Now, that kind of image of eating freshly picked food as it becomes seasonally available is a stark contrast to what we have available to us now within the last 100 years or so in both the distribution system and the processing of food products. And so although there is this abundance of things that we can readily go and get, I would say easily 50% of what's available to you in your local grocery store is complete garbage that should not be put into your body. It is unhealthy shit that should not be consumed. So keep this in mind when you're going and have awareness when you are choosing the foods you're going to eat. And yeah, just be aware that there is all this stuff that's out there that's available. That doesn't mean it's good for you. And that's my rant. So yeah, just to sum it up, in terms of diet, as much as possible, try to eliminate non-natural foods, processed foods, artificial sweeteners, colors, additives. The easiest way to do this is to eat as much fresh foods, leafy green stuff, fruits and vegetables as possible. Yeah, basically just increase the amount of fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, increasing the amount of leafy greens that's in your diet. Other great foods to include in your diet are really brightly colored things, carrots, beets in particular. Anything that has a really bright orange, purple, or pink color that has a lot of the carotenes and xanthophylls, the vitamins, add a lot of vitamin diversity to your diet, can really help increase your energy levels and give you more of a stable blood sugar and energy levels overall that can help in your quest and your struggle against anxiety or depression. And above and beyond that, there's a lot of actually herbal remedies or medicinal plants and foods that you can add into your diet. I put a list of a few of them right here. And a lot of them are really quite handy. You can get, they're readily available in powdered forms. And so they're great. You can add them to smoothies in the morning or sprinkle them onto other foods or mix them into baking. A great one that I just added to my diet was maca and also ashwagandha, as well as licorice root. These are all available in powdered forms that you can really easily add to to foods that you make throughout the day. Yeah, and so other things also including blueberries, raspberries, grapes, any of those really brightly colored fruits that actually have a lot of antioxidants and really help balance blood sugar levels. And beyond that, there are other things you can introduce into your diet, specifically specific plants and plant medicines that can be added in that can actually have a very calming effect. Chamomile, passion flower, lavender is a great one, as well as ashwagandha. And you can prepare them quite easily. You can make your own teas. You can buy them pre-made. But consuming some of these infusions from these plants, both in the evening as a tea before you go to bed and in the morning, can really help to stabilize your emotional states and kind of ground you on a more calm and peaceful level. So they can be very helpful things to include into your diet. Something to consider when it comes to eating and ingesting food is to be mindful of what you're bringing into your body. We all end up with these habits that we pick up from a very young age, where we eat the things that everybody else around us is eating. And then as we grow older, our bodies change. And what we don't realize, we're still eating these foods that necessarily aren't really the best for us. And so even no matter what other people around you are eating, your friends or your family, it's important for you to figure out what foods work in your system and which ones don't. Because if you're eating things that aggravate your body, then it puts you at a higher risk to experience imbalances in other areas of your life, including your mental and emotional well-being. So just bear in mind and be mindful of what it is that you're putting in your body at all times. As much as possible, try to avoid putting any junk food into it, because again, when you go back to the whole idea of the human life form being an open energetic system, what you get out from the output is a direct reflection of what you're putting in terms of quality. So if you put garbage into the machine, you're going to get garbage out at the other end. So wherever possible, in all areas of your life, really, really focus on what you're bringing in terms of your impressions, your food, all of those things. Yeah. So in summary, what I'd like to suggest is that's another great tool that you can use to help calm and regulate your nervous system in an effort to overcome anxiety and depression or any of those symptoms of mental or emotional overwhelm. And by eliminating the junk out of your diet, eliminating the artificial stuff, eliminating the processed foods, and then bringing more healthful, natural, whole foods into your diet, it can really help you to ground yourself, create a more stable environment within your body and within your mind. And through this mechanism with the body and selectively being very selective over what you ingest, it can really help overall with your struggle to overcome your anxiety and depression. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little chit chat. And as always, thank you for being here. Your presence is truly a gift. And we'll see you next time. Bye.